Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for watching and thank you for tuning in to this Q&A. Sorry I haven't set up too much of a interesting backdrop. I actually just opened the door to add a little spice. And we have Edge of Peloton here, so feast your eyes upon this. So in this video I thought I would do a little Q&A. Let's start with the French Nick on Instagram. Have you had to change the way you run your business since the pandemic started? So, with the exception of obviously no work coming in during the start of the pandemic, the way that I changed my business was actually I tried to change it for the positive. I took this time to get an accountant, get my accounts in order, make sure everything on that side of things was dialed in, because nothing is worse than being unsure of your finances. The second major way that I've changed my business is that I started saying yes to more weddings. Now, during lockdown that might sound a bit counterproductive because there were no weddings at the time, but you can book weddings further in advance. Sorry, I just kicked the tripod. But you can book weddings further in advance. Often weddings will be booked up to a year or even more in advance. So I started just saying yes to all those inquiries. You might ask how I was getting wedding inquiries in the first place. I started working with like a photography agent who's based here in London who covers all the town hall weddings. She has a roster of wedding photographers. She just gets the inquiries and she ships it out to the photographers and asks if anyone is willing, able and free on those days to cover that wedding. I went out and shot some couple portraits to start a portfolio, sent them to her, told her my experience commercially, signed up with her, and here we are. We're in September now and I've shot probably between 15 and 20 weddings this year, and to be honest, with how quiet the commercial stuff was during the start of this year, the weddings has totally saved the business. So eternally grateful for that, and that's a major way that I have changed my business. Final thought on that: if you're a photographer, if you're just starting out, or even if you're not, finding consistent stream of income, whether that is an enjoyable photo shoot or a regular client or not, even if it's something that you're not totally keen on, just make sure you have it so you have your bases covered. So, food for thought there. Okay, next question comes from Ollie Jones Photo. What's happening, Ollie? Lovely work. Thanks for the questions. Ollie asks about my Capture One tether workflow. Basically, when I am on a commercial job, I pretty much 99% of the time will tether to a laptop, and that basically just means using a cable that goes from my camera to my laptop, and it pops up in software called Capture One, which, if you're not familiar with it, is very similar to Lightroom. In the commercial world, Capture One is just preferred because it tends to be a better program for tethering, and as far as like usability, a lot of people just say it's a lot easier, it's a lot less complicated than Lightroom. The workflow is much easier to use. So I will tether from my camera to Capture One, and then I will use a software called ChronoSync, and I will have hard drives attached to my laptop, and I will be constantly creating backups throughout the day using ChronoSync. ChronoSync is a super simple way to create mirrored files on multiple hard drives, and with the click of a button it will constantly sync all those folders, so come the end of the day you're not dragging and dropping all your photos from Finder onto different hard drives. For example, if the client wants to go away with the hard drive at the end of the day, the backups will already be there. As soon as you take that final shot, they can unplug the hard drive and take it away if they need, which happens quite a lot. Ollie also asks about assisting a photographer in general, what's expected, i.e. knowledge, lighting, etc. So this is a really interesting one. If you're not familiar with my story, I moved to London in 2012. I started assisting in photography studios. I got to know photographers who came to those studios, and I started assisting the photographers, and I got to witness firsthand how the professionals work, how they handle clients, how they shoot, how they light things, how they back up. Sometimes you even get an insight into how they invoice clients, how they get clients, how they interact with clients, and yeah, you've just got a front row seat to how the pros do it. I was fortunate enough to assist some incredible photographers, and I got to travel the world. I got to meet celebs. I learned not to be fazed when you're faced with a Hollywood actor or a Premier League footballer. I learned that we're all just people, and this whole idea of being starstruck and meeting famous people was totally wiped off my brain, and really puts you in a good position for when you're shooting your own stuff. If you do end up shooting celebrities, you don't want to be sitting there shaking and quivering because it's the celeb off the telly. You want to be able to concentrate on your job. Assisting definitely helped me do that. Bit of a tangent. So what is expected? Initially, nothing is expected. If you are open and honest to the photographer about your level of experience and they are looking for someone who is totally green, then don't worry about it. I didn't know how to put up a stand on my first job. I didn't know how the legs worked and how to put it up, and that was on a ASOS lookbook shoot, and the photographer was just like, look, this is how you do it, and this is how you put a light on it. When you get a bit more experienced, the photographer would probably like you to know how to, say, put a softbox on a flash head. Basic safety things like don't leave any cables sticking out, anything like that. And as you go further up the line, it might be expected of you that you would know how to use the basic and more popular lighting brands such as Broncolor, Profoto, maybe Elinchrom. Not that many people use Elinchrom. It's usually Profoto or Broncolor. Familiarize yourself with those and the more popular models of those brands, and also, you know, get to know how to put them on stands and put softboxes on. If you are in a city where you have a lighting rental company, the best thing to do is to head over to that company, introduce yourself, ask if you can come in for an afternoon and just play around with the lights. These guys are 99% of the time happy to do that, because the more assistants who are familiar with that lighting company, the more likely the assistant is then going to suggest that lighting company to the photographer when the photographer needs to rent some lights. And touching on something that I mentioned earlier, it might be expected of you to know certain software such as Capture One, possibly Lightroom, but unlikely, but almost definitely Capture One. You can watch plenty of tutorials on Capture One's YouTube channel and just, you know, hook your camera up to it, shoot a few still lifes in your flat and watch the pictures come in, get an idea for folder organization and all that stuff. It seems like an intimidating software at first, but the more you use it, it's actually super simple. If you know how to open Photoshop and create a new file and new layers in Photoshop, you'll be able to navigate Capture One within a day of working it. Final thing on assisting, the most important thing is etiquette and manners. I can't tell you how many times I have worked with assistants, whether I was still assisting at the time or whether they were assisting me, who know XYZ, they know everything. They're an encyclopedia of lighting, kit and tech and all that stuff, but they have the worst manners. They're abrupt to the client. They're not proactive in helping us get the set together, get the lighting together and get the job done. And doesn't matter how experienced you are, experience will not make up for bad manners, and you will not get back on set with that photographer. So etiquette, people skills, you don't have to be an extrovert or anything like that, just kindness and manners. Help other people out, offer to make the tea, don't get up too big for your boots, just make sure everyone's comfortable. Simple. That will get you the furthest. Okay, Jason, Fu Man College asks, how long did it take you to get your first paid gig? Now, this is a bit of an interesting one. I was still at uni actually, and I was not sure what I was going to do. I went to uni to study visual communication. I thought I was going to go into advertising. I thought I was going to be a creative or work as a producer. And just through working at the skate park whilst I was at uni, riding BMX, I started taking pictures of my mates riding BMX. I was fortunate enough that some of my mates were really good on BMXs, and when I took the pictures, their sponsors wanted to run them in magazines and I sold them the pictures. Fast forward a little bit, and my next paying gigs away from BMX was for a media company based in the Highlands of Inverness, which is where I'm from, and that was filming and editing educational and instructional videos for the public and private sector, such as nurses giving instructions on how to put a wheelchair together, or it might have been the local bakery, or it might have been a promo video for the tourist board. It really ranged from anything, but basically small enterprises in the Highlands of Scotland. So that was a really good education on how to use video, how to mic people up, how to like people, meeting people and learning people skills. Then when I moved to London, I had all this video experience, and it was 2012 and a lot of photographers were trying to delve into video a little bit more. Here's me, I've already got a ton of videos on my Vimeo website, and I could help them mic people up and let them know what the settings are, what's the best software to edit in. Fast forward a little bit further into the commercial side of things, and I was assisting other photographers. I was assisting a particular photographer called David Clairhugh, who shot a lot of sports stuff. He shot a lot of like Adidas global campaigns, Nike. You know, we shot any footballer who was any footballer in the Premier League from 2012 to 2014, 2015. Off the back of that, I would reach out to magazines like Hypebeast and Soccer Bible. I would say, blah blah blah, this is my portfolio. I've also got great experience shooting footballers because I've assisted David Clairhugh, and that name carried a bit of weight with it. I possibly met some of the people from those publications on shoots, and they were like, ah yes, Rich, we've got 5 minutes with Dele Alli off the back of a Adidas campaign, can you come and take some portraits of him? And I guess that was probably my first paid commercial gigs. So Jason, I hope that answers the question, and I hope that helps. Let me know if you want me to delve into that any further, that journey any further. He also asks, how did you learn lighting? Do you just make them up until they feel right / look how you want? This could be such a complicated question, but I'll try and be quick. Assisting other photographers, you get a behind the scenes look into the craziest lighting setups. Ultimately, when I'm lighting something, I will start with one key light, and then I will build around that. So there's actually a good video, even if I say so myself, on the page called How to Create Dramatic Studio Lighting. It's linked up here, and go check that out. That's a little bit of a breakdown of how I lit the Grindhouse stuff. But what was super useful to me is in 2017, my other half, Helen, who's stuck through there, we got a little studio in East London. We lived there, we rented it out. It was a crazy time, but it gave me a 5x5 meter room in which I could set up my lights and get people to stand in front of my camera, play about with lights, it gave me the time and space to see what's working and what's not. So if you're looking to learn lighting, find a cheap, free or affordable space where you can set up a bunch of lights, borrow your mate's lights, borrow the local lighting company's lights, and just play around with it. Get models who are looking to expand their portfolio, get them to stand in front of your camera, make mistakes, find out what works, find out how the people you like do things, try and mimic that. By copying and failing, you will stumble across something that works for you. I hope that helps. One final question from Jason. Do you work with an agency? How did you get with an agency? So I presume, Jason, you're meaning a photographic agency, as in an agent who represents the photographer. And if you have been watching previous videos on this channel, you will have seen that I have just signed with an agency. Yes, I guess I do work with an agent. But for the longest time I haven't, and I have got along just fine. Previous to that, I did have an agent maybe a year ago, and we stuck together for a year, but I got absolutely no work out of that. I did get put forward for some exceptional jobs, such as following the Mercedes F1 team around for a whole year, travelling to all the races and all the backstage events and all the PR events. We priced that up. It was like lots of money, and it didn't come off, unfortunately. But those are the sort of jobs that I reckon agents can get you into that you might not get into if you don't have an agent. So that doesn't answer your question at all. How did you get with an agency? The agent that I'm currently with, they got in touch with me. They had a brief that suited my portfolio. They sought me out. The brief didn't come off, but I did sign with them as an agent, and that's how it is. Another way of doing it is seeking out an agent. If you think your portfolio is strong enough, and you have to be brutal with yourself, if your portfolio is strong enough, reach out to agents. Don't reach out to all agents, reach out to agencies that match your style. They might have a roster with similar photographers, and you might think that's intimidating because the other photographers are going to get the work. However, if, Jason, I know you shoot like a lot of sports and lifestyle stuff, seek out an agency who represent sports and lifestyle photographers, because more than likely they have tons of contacts in that industry, and that's why they represent those types of photographers in the first place. And there's plenty work to go around. So Jason, I hope that answers your question. Tony Thompson Photo. Tori, really like your work. How much of an impact has moving to London had on your career and your creativity? Tony, I think you live in Glasgow, if I remember right, or it might be Manchester, up north at least. So 2 points. Creativity, it hasn't really had that much of an impact at all. I find I'm most creative when I'm most comfortable. So for example, when I lived in Scotland, I was working in a skate park. When I was at uni, extremely comfortable, being extremely creative around creative people, trying out weird shit with cameras and all that stuff as I was kind of learning the craft. And yeah, I was super creative at that time. In London, it's a different type of creativity. I definitely have an eye on commercial stuff. So now, to flex my creative brain, I will get in touch with modelling agencies or athletes who I think would make for good photos, and I come up with a concept, and then we see that concept through. So it's a bit more thought out. It's not quite as free flowing as perhaps when you're at uni or when you're studying and you're just trying like the weirdest stuff. But two different types of creativity. The second part of that question was, how much of an impact has moving to London had on your career? And obviously it has had a massive impact. I'm from Scotland. There's probably about 5 to 6 million people that live in the whole of Scotland. In London, you've probably got 7 or 8 million now who live in a very confined space. The industry is massive. All the big companies are here. All the big agencies are here. All the small thriving companies are here. All the startups are here. You know, with the exception of some of the other cities around the UK, such as Glasgow, Edinburgh, Manchester, Leeds have got a lot of agencies there now as well. Birmingham obviously have like Gymshark and other emerging businesses. So if you don't live in London, it's not an excuse, basically. But being in London, I have been able to make lots of contacts at different agencies and different brands, and even, you know, some of the smaller stuff that I shoot with PTs and influencers and fitness instructors. There's just an abundance of it here, so it's a lot more fruitful, I'm not going to lie. Okay, final question comes in from I am Ja Visuals. Jorge or George, not quite sure how your name's pronounced, one of those ways, I hope, whose question comes in from America. So thank you, Jorge or George. I really appreciate that. Thanks for watching. George asks, could you cover on what to charge for clothing lines or how to price campaigns? So this is a total minefield, and whoever you ask is going to give you a different answer. A couple of years ago I came to peace of mind with the conclusion being, charge what you are happy to charge. If a client tries to squeeze you below that, do not do it, because in the long run you're going to end up cursing them when they ask for one more picture edited, and you're thinking, you want one more picture edited? You've already cut me down on price, so no, you know, you're going to annoy yourself, you're going to be annoyed by extra client requests, whereas if they were paying you well, you'd be more than happy to oblige. So that doesn't really answer your question, but the way to figure it out is, what are your overheads? So for example, Adobe, Photoshop, Premiere for editing, InDesign for sending PDFs, that's the things I use, and their suite costs the thick end of £50 a month. Factor in your camera costs. Do you use like a 5D Mark IV? Or maybe you've got a new Canon R5. You know, to rent those out from a rental house costs in the region of £100 to £200 a day. How much is your rent? Your office space. Do you use your house as an office? Then that is your office space, that is your rent. Factor that into costs. How much are your electricity bills? You charge your laptop, you charge your computer, all those sort of things. Figure out all your outgoings divided by 30 days, plus a little bit to pay yourself. How many days ideally can you work per month? Maybe you can shoot 7 days a month, you know, factor in editing days, and you might sort of come up with a base rate there, and that would roughly guide you. I can't give you a definitive figure. For example, Nike might want you to shoot a global campaign. Now, you're going to charge more. The usage on that's going to be seen worldwide. The more your images are used, the more you charge. But say it's a smaller local clothing brand, you've got your base rate. Look, I'd be happy to do it for $800, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever that figure might be. Give them the figure you're happy with. Allow for a little bit of wiggle room. Maybe you've got 10% either way, maybe 20% either way. You might want to charge $1,500, but they say we've only got $1,000. Well, $1,000 for a day's shooting, so long as you don't have to hire anything in. You might have a day's editing. You know, it's not something to be sniffed at. It's not something to turn your nose up at. So, George, I hope that kind of helps. Pricing is a bit of a ball ache, not going to lie. One final thing to add to that, roughly how I price up my jobs is I have my base rate, unless the client wants exceptional global usage, that base rate will go up, and then I will add on extras like that. Do we need an assistant? Do we need to hire in any specific lighting? Is there lots of travelling? Do I have to travel 200 miles to get to the shoot? In the UK it's sort of like 45 pence a mile. Factor that in. All those sort of things, add that on. Maybe add on an extra 5-10% to give yourself wiggle room when the client comes back and says, look, can you come down at all? You're going to come down to a figure that you're happy with. I hope that helps, George. I really do. But just time and experience will get you to a place that you're happy with. And then hopefully, over time, each year, you can put your prices up. Bigger brands come along, bigger companies come along, put your prices up a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. Then you might only need to shoot once a month. Who knows? Anyway, I'm babbling now. Thanks for watching this Q&A, everyone. I hope you enjoyed it. I am just back from holiday when you guys watch this, so stay tuned for potentially some holiday related content. And if you like this format and you have any questions of your own, let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. Bye bye.